Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here and joining us for True to the Core Deep Dive, where we bring in Salesforce product experts to go deeper on specific topics, to share what's on the roadmap, and most importantly, to spend plenty of time answering your questions in an extended live Q&A. A quick note before we get started, this session will be recorded, so you'll be able to watch it later on the Salesforce admin's LinkedIn page. If you miss a question, we've got you covered. I'm Kate Lassard, lead admin evangelist on the admin relations team at Salesforce, and I'll be your host for today's True to the Core deep dive, security and user access. We chose today's topic based directly on your votes and the features that you expressed interest in and want to explore more deeply. So thank you so much for sharing your insights and helping shape this session. And be sure to stick with us until the end because we'll share a link where you can continue to vote for upcoming True to the Core deep dive sessions. Just a reminder that Salesforce is a publicly traded company. Please base all of your purchasing decisions based on currently available functionality. We really want to keep hearing from you after today's session. So if you haven't already, take some time, get familiar with the idea exchange. It's one of the best ways that you can directly influence the product roadmap and be part of our product development lifecycle at Salesforce. If this is new to you, go ahead and snap the QR code on the screen. You can submit your own ideas, you can upvote ideas that already exist, and you can get visibility on how the roadmap is evolving, all while helping shape what comes next. Now, I mentioned we're going to spend some time in an extended live Q&A, so a couple experts on question asking. After our experts introduce themselves and share what they've been working on in regards to security and user access, we'll be jumping into that live Q&A, answering your questions directly from LinkedIn and from YouTube. So please add your questions into the chat as we go. To help us get to your question, please be as descriptive as possible. Specify the feature area or topic, include any helpful context, and if it's relevant, call out which product expert you'd like to direct your question to. Now, I mentioned that your feedback is what shapes these sessions. You, the community, are the ones who are guiding us on the topics that we dive deeper into. So I wanted to take a moment to give you a glimpse into what your peers are interested in and the topics that regularly appear in our survey results. If any of these are of interest to you, we want to hear about it. And if you see something that's missing that you'd like to dive deeper into in a future session, please let us know. Again, we'll share a link to that survey at the end of the session so that we can share your feedback. All right, before introducing our speakers, I do want to give a shout out to Cheryl, Stephen, and Anusha. They are answering questions in the LinkedIn chat. Thank you so much for being here. And joining me live are our experts. I will allow them to introduce themselves. And let's start out with Mahesh. Can you tell me a little bit more about your role at Salesforce?
Hey everyone, I'm Mahesh Shivalingappa. I am the product manager for authorization and permissioning space in Salesforce. I own things like permission sets, profiles, permission set groups, user access policies, among many others. So super excited to be here to help answer your questions and also excited to learn from you all. I pick Pete to go next.
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name is Pete Thurston. My team focuses on making security more accessible and more manageable for everybody. We really focus on Shield products, so things like event monitoring, field audit trail, platform encryption, data detect, but also like Security Center and tools like the Security Health Checker in our group too. So we are here to help, whether you're just getting started or whether you're a Shield customer looking to go further. So really excited to hear your questions today.
All right, and Larry, I don't know if you're there. I think that we lost you. Okay, we also have Larry Tung with us, who is product manager for user access, and he is going to share a little bit also about setup for Agentforce. We will let Larry go ahead and introduce himself shortly, but let's let each of our experts share a quick glimpse into what they've been working on. So, Pete, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. Yeah, happy to do so. So, I wanted to get us going with a couple of quick updates on some of the stuff that our team has shipped recently. We're really excited about it. You've probably noticed some changes to Health Check recently. So we'll start there. We introduced several new signals to the score calculation, and that includes stuff like critical settings like your MFA configuration status, which is kind of a hot topic right now. But also, we know tons of you love to come in and look at the health check every single day, and we love that. Thank you for that. But some of you maybe don't want to. So we thought we could make it a little easier and get that score into your hands automatically. So now we run the health check automatically every single week for you, and we send you an email if your score goes down or if there's still any critical settings that aren't compliant with the baseline that you have configured. And if you want to tweak who's getting those notifications, you can do that right in the health check page too. So just making sure everybody knows about the changes and jump in there and tweak it if you need to. But I'll switch gears and talk a little bit about Shield too. So now looking at Shield, we're continuing that theme of kind of making things easier. So if you're a Shield customer, we really want to make it as easy as possible for you to know that you're taking advantage of what you have available to you. So we launched the new Shield app, which pulls all the various components of Shield together into one easy place with like guided setup and quick dashboards to help you know how things are going. And one other really exciting recent launch was actually through Salesforce Labs on the App Exchange. So if you've ever been intrigued by transaction security policies, but you weren't quite sure where to start, we have an app for that now. So go check out the TSP Accelerator app on the App Exchange and see if that helps kind of inspire you where you can get started with that. So that's what I got to share with you. I'm going to actually throw it back over to Mahesh to give us some updates from his side too.
Hey, thanks, Pete. So many of you have told us in past sessions, True to Core sessions, and in Dreamforce and other avenues that uh, admins spend 20% of the time on troubleshooting user access. That's a whole day every week. So we've also heard from you that you're looking for ways to go faster. You're looking for ways to maybe spend less time on the manual clicks of tasks and spend more time on the strategic work that truly drives impact for your company. And that is why our biggest investment right now in the user access space is in setup with Agentforce. Uh, we're looking to solve your regular true to the core issues that have come up in past sessions, ideas from Ideas Exchange with setup with Agentforce. Things like clone user, which has 12,000 IDX points, Ideas Exchange points. Uh, you can now clone a user within setup with Agentforce with a single utterance. All of your user records, your assignments cloned within 30 seconds. Even think about things like being able to access a setup audit trail from within Salesforce without ever needing to leave or download a CS suite to be able to do that. You can now do that with setup with Agentforce. And even things like efficiently troubleshoot user access. Uh, Things that you'll run into regularly, like one user has access to this record and another doesn't. Why not? Instead of needing to get into a click marathon trying to figure this out, you can now just ask the agent this and let the agent do all the work and help figure it out and come back with the exact answer that you need to know. So with that, setup with Agentforce is currently in open beta. We already have support for, like I said, the troubleshooting user access use cases. We also have support for configuring your access controls, like creating and editing your permission set groups, sharing rules, public groups, queues, so on and so forth. In our upcoming June release, here's another pretty common to the core use case that keeps coming up: a side-by-side comparison framework, where, as you can see, this is for users, as you see on the screenshot. This is targeted for your June release, where you can see a side-by-side comparison of the user's assignments as well as all of their permissions. We don't want to stop there, right? We are adding support for a profile comparison, comparison between your profiles and permission sets and permission set groups. Basically a one-stop shop for all of your permission comparison use cases. So that's coming up in the upcoming months. If you are interested in knowing more, we did a deep dive session in TDX where we showcase how setup with Agentforce can truly simplify your user access issues. So the session was recorded. It's available on Salesforce Plus. If you're interested in knowing more, please catch the recording. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Larry. Who's going to showcase what's coming up with granular access control.
Thank you, Mahesh. Wow, I'm super excited with Setup with Agentforce. And from my perspective, I'm really focused on more granular controls and specifically with record access. Many of you have told us through the ideas exchange, 75,000 points. That's across 4 specific ideas. You've told us criteria-based sharing rules. You want more support with lookups. You've told us role hierarchy access with sensitive records. We need to take care of that use case as well. And there's also restriction rules. We thought we solved a whole bunch of stuff for you, but we needed to do much more. And then what about field access? Well, you wanted more options to make it perhaps criteria-based. And so we hear you. That's 75,000 points. We're going to try to address this. Hopefully, early next year. It's going to take us time. We're already working hard at it. You can take a look at a deeper dive in the user management roadmap we presented at TDX that's available on Salesforce Plus. And so what you see from the screen is a policy authoring or builder. And it's going to help you build these new security policies that are going to help you with more granular controls, whether it's on your specific users or agents and so forth. So I'm really excited about what we have coming up. I want to turn this over now back to Kate.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Before we get into our Q&A, I know that we're seeing a lot of questions that are coming in through the chat regarding the recent MFA and security mandate. Those updates are actually owned by a different team, so I just wanted to let everyone know as you're asking questions that today's session is going to stay focused on the areas that Pete, Mahesh, and Larry are directly supporting. However, we really want to make sure that everyone gets the resources they need, that they're pointed in the right direction. So we'll make sure that we get those resources to anyone who has questions about those MFA updates after the session. All right, so just as we dive into our Q&A, a reminder to everyone to please add your questions into the LinkedIn chat or the YouTube chat, and a reminder to add as much detail and context as possible for our experts so that they're able to answer those to the best of their ability. Now, let me go over to the questions and see what we've got. All right. So our first question is regarding permission set architecture. The question is, do we have documentation or best practices defined for permission set architecture, including naming conventions, design patterns for permission sets and permission set groups? And how do we approach scalable access management?
I can take that. Yes, absolutely. I think our doc writers have done a phenomenal job in the past 2 to 3 years, along with Cheryl, to update our documentation and publish these best practices. So these practices, I mean, these documents are available. We can share the link in the chat in a little bit, but we do have documented best practices for all of those.
Awesome. All right, our next question is about user access policies. It is, when will multiple user access policies apply? User access policies are great. We can, for example, say that every new internal user should get these base permission set groups, but only one user access policy will apply, so we can't have another one.
That's me again. So we are definitely targeting some user access policy enhancements in the later part of FY27. Again, I don't have any dates in mind, but we did discuss, the team got together and spoke about some of these. That request, I know it's one of the highest user access policies request in Ideas Exchange. That along with 2 other, with the OR operator support for OR, and we are looking at a couple of these. I will update the Ideas Exchange points accordingly. We just finished planning, But I'm glad to hear that user access policies. It's still a priority for us, and with the enhancements and stuff.
Fantastic. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. For an existing nonprofit cloud organization, what are the options for implementing HIPAA compliance so that we can safely reference protected health information in interaction summaries, create custom fields for PHI, etc.?
I guess I can step in there. It's very difficult to advise on compliance and interpretation of specific requirements, right? HIPAA is relatively clear about the types of data that you need to protect, but not necessarily prescriptive about specific protective controls, right? So a lot of this does come down to interpretation. That said, once you do have a solid understanding, most of what you need should be available within the platform for things like protecting PHI, including classic encryption where it's applicable for masking data and making sure it's encrypted at rest, and also leaning on sort of the foundationals of the platform and sort of the reasons you came to Salesforce in the first place. And we offer encryption at rest for every single customer across the board. It's not tenant specific, but it is encrypted at rest as it's stored in the database. So there's a lot of protective controls, and making sure you really understand the runtime of the environment that you're working in first before you start reaching for those additional protections based on your interpretation of the requirements.
Fantastic. All right, we've got a couple questions about setup with Agentforce, if y'all are ready for it. Setup with Agentforce. When will this be where did this go? Oh, I lost the question. Sorry about that. How do you envision setup with Agentforce to enforce complex SOD, separation of duty rules, where users are allowed or not certain configurations depending on the persona? And I can repeat that. How do you envision setup with Agentforce to enforce complex separation of duty rules where users are allowed or not certain configurations depending on the persona?
I can take that. So right now with setup with Agentforce, it really respects the user's permission. So first of all, you need to actually grant a specific permission to use setup with Agentforce. And once you do that, we respect the specific user's permissions. And everything is also going to be auditable. So you can go into the setup audit trail, and what you'll see is the specific user who made the change, along with this specific column that will introduce the agent, in this case, setup with Agentforce, that made that change. The other piece that we do is that as you're asking setup with Agentforce to configure different things for you, what's pretty neat is that there'll be a confirmation, right? So there's always this human in the loop aspect as you're configuring and adjusting the existing org metadata. So hopefully this will keep your org completely safe and secure and whatnot.
Awesome. Thanks, Larry.
I just want to add one thing there. From an auditing standpoint, there is a log that is logging the user that's doing this with the agent's help, and also an indication to show that this was done by the agent, that it was triggered by this user. So the setup audit trail is logging all of your user actions as well as agent actions.
All right. Pete, I think this one is going to be for you. How should admins prioritize security health check findings when there are a large number of recommendations? Are there best practices for identifying which issues pose the highest risk based on an org setup or data sensitivity?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So if you're familiar with the health check, it operates on something called a baseline. And a baseline is an actual file that is a defined preset configuration that really is that stratification of most critical things at the top in the high risk category, and things that are just kind of like interesting down in the informational category, and everything in between. So we, Salesforce, ship a standard baseline that is agreed upon with our Salesforce security team as well as our product team. and is sort of a good starting point. But what I really suggest is take a few minutes. This isn't a huge exercise, but take a little bit of time to go through all the settings that are in there and make sure that that baseline is tuned to your specific needs. Once you do that, you can upload that baseline back into health check, and the score will calculate based on your specific preferences and desires. Now, at that point, you start at the top and you work your way down and you turn all the reds to green. And that's what you really want to do. But you really want to make sure that you're measuring it against the baseline that's applicable to your operating environment. And so I always say, start with that first, really know what they are, and then start at the top, work your way down, turn the reds to green, and you'll be in good shape.
That is great advice, and a quick plug, we'll share more at the end of the program, but we do have a security in action workshop coming up next week for admins, where we will talk a lot more about health check and actually go through the exercise of importing our own custom baseline for being able to have more stringent policies within your health check. So that's a really cool thing to call out for admins.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, great timing. All right, let's go back to user access policies. When will user access policies allow for a clearing of previous permissions for when users change positions in the company and need different access completely?
Yes, so that's one of the first features or enhancements that we are targeting. Again, later in FY27, but it's what we're calling the start from scratch action, where when somebody is changing the department, we want to clear their existing permissions and then assign new ones. So that is one of the enhancements that is being prioritized before others for UAP.
All right. And in your intro, you talked about how admins spend tons of time going through and troubleshooting different user access issues. So I have a question here that's related to that. It says when users report they can or can't see a record, admins often spend hours tracing through role hierarchy, sharing rules, teams, implicit sharing, public groups, all the list goes on to understand why. What is Salesforce doing to make it easier to answer why does this user have access to this record? And are there plans to provide a unified access explanation tool that traces through all of these sharing mechanisms?
Okay, thank you for that. I think one thing I saw in the chat was just we shared a trailhead. So I'd love for you guys to try it out and get hands-on with setup with Agentforce. One of the use cases is specifically troubleshooting what's going on with one record. And so set up with Agentforce, instead of you having to do all of that work, now you can just delegate that work to the agent. Just ask the agent, hey, there's a specific record. Why is Sally able to edit, but Henry, he can't? What's going on, right? And so the agent will do all of that work. It will look at your org's configuration and then respond to you, telling you, here's all the reasons, and give you different options. So I'm really excited about what we're doing here with setup with Agentforce to really whether it's the record access, object, field, user permissions, the agent's working on it. And you can try it out today.
Very cool. Let's see. Is there any plan or ETA for when we can have users or product owners use delegated admin to log in as another user but not be given the modify all data security permission?
I am not. Let me check with the team and get back on that. I'm not too sure about the answer to this question. But yeah,
Well,
if you tag me in Trailhead or in Trailblazer communities anywhere, I'll follow up and get back to you on this.
yeah, this is a bit interesting because if you can log in as a user, as a specific user, you should be having that user's permission. So we'd love to kind of dig into it a bit more.
Yeah, we'll get you the question and get you Ray's name so that you can connect on that a little bit further and understand that use case. All right, let's see. We have a Shield question, Pete. Shield platform encryption is often viewed as a complex implementation. What improvements or guidance are available today to help teams adopt it more efficiently for compliance and data protection needs?
This is like my favorite question. I'm so excited. This is a big part of why I came to Salesforce. So before I came to Salesforce, I was a partner of Salesforce, and we worked on Shield implementations. And I came here to make it easier. And so I'm really excited that we have made a lot of progress there. So a couple of big things. Platform encryption is a lot more than it used to be. So platform encryption historically was just field level encryption, which was really, really, really powerful, but it had a lot of side effects. And so field level encryption encrypts the data in the application tier. So after the data is read out of the database, we decrypt it in memory, show it to you, you do your things, and we write it back. Sorry, we're going to get a little nerdy here for a minute. So now, because of the way that's done, it introduces a lot of side effects. Things like you can't issue a database query to filter for that because the real text never makes its way to the database, right? So really powerful, still very, very applicable for your kind of crown jewels data, but it has a lot of side effects. So we've been working for the last like 8 years on something called database encryption, which is now part of platform encryption. And this is an additional layer of encryption that's done at a different tier of the stack. And so database encryption is available for all of our platform encryption customers now and is completely transparent. Will encrypt all of your data as it's stored in the database engine. And that includes things that you might not even think of, like your Apex code, your intellectual property, things like that are stored in the database as records will get encrypted as well. All the same key management controls that you have for field level encryption, but you can kind of do that across the whole database. Platform encryption has also always sort of included things like files and attachments and search indexes that are, just one checkbox and you're good to go. But we're really excited about database encryption. The other big thing that we did is with the acquisition of Own in the last, I guess, a little over a year now, one of their offerings that they had was the ability to analyze what are the side effects going to be before you encrypt a field. And we're really excited that we were able to bring that into Shield with the acquisition of Own. So now you can kind of do a what if simulation before you encrypt a field and make sure that you know what could go sideways in your org if you do encrypt it. And remediate that before you enable encryption. And we're in the process of moving that completely into the Shield application right now. So right now that's in an extension package that's available to all of our Shield customers. But hopefully in the summer release, we will have that in the Shield app and ready to roll for everybody. So we've made a lot of progress here, and I think you'll find it's a lot easier than it used to be.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that we asked your favorite question.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have a question about access troubleshooting. For organizations that are managing multiple Salesforce orgs, what is the best way to monitor security settings and maintain visibility across environments? How does Security Center complement tools like the Security Health Check in these types of scenarios, the multi-org scenarios?
I can jump in there again on that one. So Security Center is really, really powerful for being able to monitor how things change over time and also at a given point in time. But one of the kind of superpowers of Security Center is that it's natively multi-org. And so if you have multiple orgs like this question asker has, you can connect all of those orgs together into one sort of parent tenant. And you can see the settings across all of them for all of the metrics that we track in Security Center, including Health Check is one of them, since that was part of the question. So you can easily, let's say you have 10 orgs, you can see all 10 Health Check scores side by side. You can set alerts to tell you when each one changes from one common plane. But you can also do things like see everybody across all of your orgs that has, say, weekly data export permission or modify all data. And again, be able to see not only the reasons that they have it, so they have it because of this profile and these 3 permission sets, but also be able to set alerts when those things change. So if a new user gets an advanced privilege, you can be told what across all of your orgs from one single pane of glass. So that's really kind of what Security Center is there to do, is to centralize the understanding of those things that are homogeneous across orgs, things like system permissions, things like which connected apps are installed, which managed packages are installed, so on and so forth. So hopefully that makes it a little easier to be able to do that multi-org management. And Security Center, you've probably noticed over the last few Dreamforces, TDXs is getting a lot of love from our team because we've found that we've got a really solid platform to build on. And so we're just keep packing more and more in there.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, admins that manage multi-org, that has to be a huge game changer. All right. Next question is from Nicholas. In regards to external connections, are there plans to add more API scopes to add more granular control?
I don't know if we have anybody who owns connected apps on here or ECAs, which is external client apps.
Yeah. Okay. We'll follow up with Nicholas and maybe put him in touch with the correct person to ask that question. Okay. Let's see. There are occasions when a flow should adhere to user-based permissions, example for data visibility, but there are times when certain aspects require system-level access within that same flow. Are there any upcoming changes to flow permissions that could facilitate more granular control, maybe on a flow component basis?
Yeah, that's something we need to ask the flow product managers. There's ability today to use a subflow. So if you call out to a subflow that has elevated permissions where you specifically ask that subflow to run in system mode, then you could have what you're asking for. If I understand that you're running in the user's context, but then you have a portion of the flow that has to run in system, so you would be able to put that into a separate flow essentially, and that's currently what's there. But if yours is like, hey, for this specific component, I want to be able to make it run in system mode, then that is a feature enhancement still.
Perfect. Fantastic. Thanks, Larry. Let's see. Question, it looks like about restricting access. Today, Salesforce sharing is primarily additive. You open access through sharing rules, but have limited ability to restrict it dynamically based on record attributes. The example given here is like a confidential flag or a record status. Restriction rules help, but are limited in object support. What's the roadmap for attribute-based access control or deny capabilities so that admins can restrict record visibility based on field values without any complex Apex workarounds? Let me know if you want me to repeat that. I know that was a lot.
So I can take that as well. So this one's a common one we heard at TDX. I was presenting, just showing what we're hoping to do. So we're hoping that early next year, perhaps spring release, we'll have some additional controls for your sensitive records. And then in the summer, more sensitive controls for field access. And so what we're trying to do is put in some security policies, if you'll call it that. Maybe you'd call it restriction rules 2.0, with more object support, with more flexible criteria. We do this both on the records and the fields. So you bring up a good point. Within sharing, we often talk about making something private and then opening up access through sharing rules and other sharing mechanisms. But with restriction rules, then we put in a feature to help you scope what a user can do. And then we're hoping now with potentially a new feature to be able to, again, replace restriction rules in a sense with even more power in terms of both the records and then the fields. So give us some time. We're hard at work on it right now, and hopes we'll be able to showcase something for you at Dreamforce.
Awesome. I like the 2.0 mentality. All right. Next question is from Christopher. Can we get a tool to make user setup across sandboxes easier? For example, if I set up a new user in production, push that user down to a full copy sandbox, a partial sandbox, dev sandbox, etc.
That's an interesting use case. So you're now saying, hey, I made some changes in production. My sandboxes are now out of sync. Normally you could refresh the sandbox, but that refreshes the whole thing. So I think some of these environment areas is something that Cheryl and the rest of our product managers are thinking about with setup with Agentforce. Stay tuned. This is a feature request we've been hearing.
Awesome. And we've got Cheryl in the chat, so I know that she saw that question. All right, back to health check. Will health check consider password policy and session settings overriding by profiles and not just focus on org-wide settings?
Interesting question. So the short answer is right now, health check is built in a way that is adherent to the org as its like state, basically. So it can kind of only look at that org level. We are currently in the process of re-architecting the back end of health check to be more metrics oriented, so more calculated insights sort of oriented. When we do that, we'll be able to break out of the org as its like primary container and start to go a little bit more granular and start to say, if you wanted a health check signal that, for instance, said number of users where password never expires, right? Or percentage of users where passwords never expire. That's something we can't do today, but that's something that we're trying to work toward with this new architecture on the back end. So once we get through that migration to the new back end, we should be able to support things like that, and very excited to do so. The key is to make it configurable, make sure that the baselines play nicely with it and all that kind of stuff too. So we'll make sure that that's all there before we ship it. But that is the direction that we're headed, and we're super excited about it. And you might have noticed we actually just launched a new signal, or it's coming soon. Actually, I should probably check, but anyway, it's either there now or it's coming really soon. That is a percentage of your users that have the standard system administrator profile, right? So like we're starting to get out of the org and into the profile user space, but we're dipping our toes to make sure that it can scale before we really go kind of crazy with it.
Well, you definitely see it. I was playing around with health check in a developer edition recently, and that was there. I had the funny, since it was a developer edition, very high percentage for my very small user base of my fake users. So I was like, ooh, that's critical.
Yeah, darn close to 100% would be my guess.
Yep, it was and scary as an admin to see that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Are there plans to make security center alerts percentage based instead of metric based on X number? Ideally, linking a flow that would allow for us to control the metric inputs that trigger the alert on a given metric.
Wow. We have some power users. That's exciting.
We do, absolutely.
That's awesome.
That's what we like to see.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I mean, that's we want people pushing the limits, right? So that's awesome. So 2 questions actually in there. So 2 answers you get. Making the threshold sort of percentage based, and being a little bit more flexible is, yes, part of the plan. We are currently, as part of that reframeworking of health check, we're actually reframeworking the alerts framework for security center so that they can come together and leverage some of the same components. And as we do that, we will have to level up some of the flexibility with the alerting capabilities. So that is definitely on the list, is more customizable thresholds as well as more types of thresholds. Right now, it's kind of a hard count thing versus could we actually do percentage based. So yes, I don't have a date for you right now. I can tell you that the work is ongoing right now to build up the back end to be able to support this. The key is because it's shared backend. This is literally every single org on earth, including Kate's 27 dev orgs that I'm sure she's running right now. So we just have to make sure it can scale and run everywhere, but that's the plan. And then there was sort of a interesting question in there about flow as the entry point, which we haven't thought about, but we can. So we'll take that as a to-do to consider as far as flow as the like decision entry point to the alerting framework. But I do want to just make sure everybody's aware. So if you are kind of a super user of Security Center, which it sounds like this person is, you can call flows from alert results. So we get this asked a lot of like, how do I customize what comes out in the notification messages that come from Security Center? And the answer to that is you can hook into that notification result object with a flow and create a record triggered flow from that. And then you can customize the content that goes into the communication, but you can also take actions automatically if you want to based on that as well. So just want to make sure that everybody's aware that that's out there too. But we'll definitely consider flow as an input as well. It frankly hasn't come up before.
Very cool. Well, thank you to our super users asking questions. Let's head back to setup with Agentforce. So, what are some additional use cases that the team is working on for setup with Agentforce that's going to make life easier for our admins so that they can focus on more strategic tasks and less on those routine troubleshooting admin tasks that take up so much time that we've already talked a little bit about?
I can start with this. Yeah, some of the things that I couldn't cover in the slides are things like org health metrics. Like for user access, think about things like permission sets that are underutilized or unassigned permission sets or unassigned groups. We don't have a way of showcasing that or showing that information for admins to go reclaim these and potentially use it for other purposes. So that's one thing that's coming up in actually the upcoming June release, where this is going to be front and center. As soon as you log in, go to setup, you can see a tile that gives you a highlight of all of this useful information that you can actually action on. That's some of the things. The compare users, the compare framework. We are building on that. We are taking feedback as it's going out. That's one of the things that was the highlight of TDX. A lot of users, admins were interested in that. So if you'll have feedback on that, actually on anything set up with Agentforce related, please reach out to me, Larry, Cheryl. We want to hear. We want to get your feedback, and setup with Agentforce will evolve with that feedback. So, Larry, do you have anything to add?
No, you summarized it well. We're just constantly looking at how we can take some of these routine tasks that you have and automate it. You don't have to then go click in a bunch of places and set up, and just have the agent be able to do more for you.
Awesome. Well, I can tell you that we definitely appreciate it and are excited about setup with Agentforce, hence all the excitement questions that we've had. Next question. Oh, I love this one. What is the best approach for taking an existing org that relies very heavily on profiles and move them towards that best practice of being permission led, using permission set groups and permission sets?
That's an excellent question. Again, we are exploring options within setup with Agentforce to how to make this easy for admins, right? The compare profiles with permission sets. That's one of the tools that we can leverage for this. We don't want this to be just a read-only tool. We want to provide a way for you to automatically configure or transfer over some permissions that shouldn't be on your minimum access profiles onto a permission set, an existing one or a new one. So those are some of the things that we are working on. So if I'd love to connect with this whoever asked the question to know more of their use cases and how we can bring that into setup with Agentforce to make admins' life easy.
Awesome. So staying with permission sets and permission set groups, we have a question. Will it be possible to add permission set groups, not just permission sets, to a permission set group?
That's an interesting one. I don't think if this has come up in the past. I haven't had conversations around this, but I'd love to know more about. I see how it can be useful, but we haven't thought about this. I've got to take this back to the team and see. Discuss this more. But that's actually a very interesting idea.
Okay, let's see. Um, Next question. I think this is one for Pete, probably. You let me know. Salesforce Mesh was announced at Dreamforce last year. Can you give a high level overview of what this new capability will bring to Salesforce security?
Yeah, good question and good spotting it at the event. Security Mesh actually is what it's called. So Security Mesh is an upcoming pretty major feature upgrade to Security Center. So what Security Mesh is going to do? So let's see, how do I explain this? So Security Center today does a really good job of understanding what's going on inside the Salesforce security boundaries of what's going on literally inside your org and what your configurations are and things like that. And with our new Agentforce and Security Center capabilities, we can use event monitoring data along with that configuration information to paint a more full picture of any security incidents and triage them and try to figure out what's going on around occasions. What Security Mesh is going to do is allow you to attach in your security data from other systems. So things like our partners at Okta and CrowdStrike, and coming soon with DigitSec and with Secure, to be able to have an even fuller picture of what's happening within your space. So right now, the use case that comes up a lot is something called impossible travel. So how do, if I see that Larry logged into Salesforce from San Francisco, but 3 seconds later Larry logged into Salesforce from Boston, I know that that's not possible, right? That does not seem realistic given the limits of space and time. Therefore, I can be like, something's wrong here. Let's go look into it. That's totally doable today with the security agent, with event monitoring, all those things. What I can't do is I can't say Larry logged into Salesforce from San Francisco, but he logged into some other system through Okta in Boston, 3 seconds apart, right? Now, with Mesh, we can pull those signals in from the external identity providers and things like that, correlate them together in something called the Open Cybersecurity Schema Framework, which is a standard that is used to sort of centralize and correlate log data. And now I get a bigger picture of what's going on. So I can say, okay, Okta signal says Larry's in 2 places at once. Not good. Let's go look in and see what might have happened in Salesforce. Well, now I can see this is everything that happened with Larry's session around that time frame within Salesforce, and with Secure flagged that he uploaded a malicious link while he was in there. Things like that. Sorry, Larry, you're the bad guy right now, or somebody on your behalf is the bad guy right now. But anyway, so Mesh brings it to a much bigger picture inside of Security Center, so that we can have more robust investigations, and it's all powered by Data 360, which we're really excited about too. Longer answer than you expected, I bet, but there you go.
Well, I think that if anyone can, break that space-time continuum and be in 2 places at once, I bet Larry can do it.
It's probably a Salesforce PM.
Absolutely. It's definitely a Salesforce PM. Okay, next question is, what about adding Salesforce CLI to perform some security checks in CI/CD pipeline?
I don't think we have a code analyzer PM on the call.
Yeah. All right. Sean Mark, we will get back to you on that. Okay, let's see. We had some unintended exposures using the guest user in our onboarding solutions. What are the high level guardrails and guidance that we should follow regarding guest user?
Anybody else want to take it?
Well, I think one thing is, I'm sorry to hear. Yeah, it's very unfortunate if that's what happened. And with guest users, I think this can be a bit challenging. I mean, you're basically opening up certain access to all of the internet, whoever has access to your guest user. So within setup, we actually have a report you can click into. I think if you just type in guest in the left panel, I believe, in setup, there's a report that can show you for a given guest user, here are all the objects that they have access to, various fields that they have access to, and then it will also even show you the record counts. So that's one way to just validate for that specific org what the guest has access to. And then when you're creating those guest sharing rules, please be very careful in terms of what you're sharing, as you're now exposing X number of records to anybody who can log in. I mean, there's no, as a guest, this is just open to the public. So again, just I think those are some of the guardrails. I think we're in discussion of how we can make this a bit more proactive. Like you make some changes, how we push some of this information to you. So that's something we're actively talking about.
Yeah, I'd like to echo Larry's sentiment there. With sorry that that happened, but again, from a provisioning standpoint, we are also trying to do our due diligence, trying to surface the fact that, say, if you're modifying a permission set or a profile or a permission set group that is assigned to a guest user, we'd want to surface that information to the admin so that they're aware while they're making, even before they make a change to it. So we are trying to put some guardrails around that in the user access space. So
Okay, we have about 9 minutes left. A couple more questions that I want to get us all through. So the next one takes us back to a permission set question. So when looking at a permission set assignment, it will show the users that have been directly assigned to that permission set. However, this screen does not show other users that have been assigned that permission set via a permission set group. Is there a plan to get this updated or fixed?
there are no plans right now, but I'd like to. Again, this is another one of those things I'd like to take it back to the team. It's a very interesting problem. Like there are so many of these that lose low hanging threads that we need to follow up on. But I'll take a look at this and maybe follow up with the user to get more information. But yeah, currently there are no plans on changing that.
Okay, well, we can get you Justin's name and the question for sure.
Perfect.
All
Thank
right,
you.
since we're, at 8 minutes now, I've been saving this question because I absolutely love it, and it goes to both Mahesh and Larry to answer separately. And it is Pete got his favorite question. What other favorite questions do you wish that we'd ask here? So, Mahesh and Larry, I'll give you a chance to share what your favorite question or thing to share would be.
Larry, do you want to go first?
Kate, I think someone already asked my favorite question, just all the work the team is doing regarding more granular access controls and making it more flexible with attribute-based access controls. So we're really excited. We're working hard. How do you protect your sensitive data, not just for your users, but also any agents? So that's the thing the team's working on this year. If you want to bring something new, perhaps that wasn't asked today, I think the other areas where I'd love to get some feedback or just the use cases our community has is really around what are their use cases in terms of metadata. One thing we've been thinking about is how do we provide more granular controls on metadata. So, should you be able to see all the Apex classes in your org as an example, or all the flows? So that's something our team's definitely thinking about, potentially putting in some solutions for. And then perhaps another one, maybe it's more in Mahesh's space as well, and just user permissions, right? Like we have a lot of permissions that do a lot of things. So we're already aware of that, and we're working with various teams on how do we scope down certain permissions, right? Like modify alt data, it does too much stuff, right? Customize application, same thing. So we're working with other teams or introducing new ways on how we may try to solve some of that. So those are all top of mind. We're working on it. I don't have anything concrete to share with you now. Hopefully by Dreamforce or Sales, you can watch on one of those Salesforce Plus episodes. Hopefully that we'll have some more to share with you guys.
I'll keep it short and quick. So this was asked in TDX. It was very generic. It was, can setup with Agentforce fix all of my user access issues? And I thought that question was interesting, and the takeaway for that was yes, that's where we want to go, but we will need your feedback and your input in helping us get there. So your feedback, it's a gift. So please keep it coming. You can tag me at mention me wherever if you want to have a chat and see what we can do with Setup with Agent Force to help admins simplify their user access and troubleshooting use cases. But yeah, thank you.
Awesome. And Pete, I feel like you got a little slighted there because you already got your favorite question. So last question. I'll finish up with you here. Is there anything else that you'd like to give a shout out to that we haven't talked about that your team's been working on or is in the roadmap?
Oh my gosh! I mean, it has been a year. It has been a big year. I guess one just quick awareness thing. I'll take this time for a little PSA. So there, if you are a Shield customer today, so you've noticed that we've been pushing out a lot of awareness campaigns around security, as well as some changes to the way we need things to be dialed in for all of our customers. If you're an existing Shield customer, just an awareness thing, we are pushing out for the first time ever a default transaction security policy to your org. You can totally change it. You can turn it off. You can do whatever you need to do, but we're trying to help people get started a little bit easier. So just an awareness that we will be pushing out a default transaction security policy soon that is going to require an additional MFA validation if somebody tries to export more than 10,000 records out of your org in a single call. So just want to give everybody a heads up. So I'll just take this time to do that. Now I did.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that. Well, that brings us to the end of our security and user access deep dive. Thank you all so much for being here, for answering all of our amazing questions that we received from the community. And we really want to hear how we did today. So please take a moment, everyone, to let us know how this session was and to vote on future True to the Core deep dive topics. Your feedback helps make these sessions even better and ensures that we're talking about the topics that matter the most to all of you. And I did a little shout out to it earlier, but once more, to continue your deep dive into Salesforce security, join the admin relations team next week for a virtual hands-on workshop, Security in Action. We'll walk through step-by-step instructions so that you can feel confident using Salesforce security tools, and I hope to see you there. Remember that this recording will be available. Please feel free to share it with your teammates or to rewatch any questions. And thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you at the next True to the Core deep dive.